Morning and welcome to Cuyahoga County's Community Development Committee meeting. It is Monday, June 27th at approximately 12:02, and we are starting our meeting. Madam Clerk, if you would call the roll or call the meeting to order in the roll for us, please.
As a reminder to all in attendance, this meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the county YouTube page. Calling the roll, Ms. Stevens,
Present.
Mr. Jones,
Here.
Ms. Simon. Ms. Simon is absent at the moment. Mr. Gallagher.
Here.
Ms. Baker.
Here.
We have a quorum. Also, I'd like the record to reflect that Councilmember Tuma is also in attendance.
Okay. Is there any public comment this morning?
Yes, Madam Chair, we have two individuals signed in. First person for public comment is Lee Weingart.
Mr. Weingart, if you'd approach the podium, please.
Good morning. My name is Lee Weingart. I'm a taxpayer of Cuyahoga County. I appear this morning to urge you to reject items R2022-0153, 0156, and 0157 on your agenda. I believe the ARPA grants in these three items are inconsistent with the Charter of Cuyahoga County, which provides in Section 3.0912, no public money of or under the control of the county from whatever source derived shall be subject to appropriation, application, or distribution at the order or direction of any individual member of the council. Each of the items represents a distribution at the order or direction of an individual member of the council. Item 2022-0153 is the best illustration of this violation of the charter. This item is a $4 million award for the purpose of constructing a golf course clubhouse. The award matches exactly the amount, terms, and conditions announced by Councilmember Scott Tuma in an article in Cleveland.com on June 20th. This is a clear evidence that Councilmember Tuma ordered or directed ARPA funding for this project. This committee's approval of funding for this project and the other two items allocating ARPA funds this morning does not remedy the fatally illegal flaw that the funding was conceived at the order or direction of an individual council member. My objection is not with the projects being considered this morning, but rather with the process used to choose and fund these projects. Council could very easily fund these projects by working with the county executive to create a competitive bid program with the county's ARPA funds and solicit proposals from the 11 county council districts. This would ensure the fairness, transparency, and accountability the voters sought when they approved the county charter in 2009. By cutting corners on the project selection process, as this committee is doing this morning, you continue the regression back to the corrupt practices which led to the creation of the new form of county government. By adhering to regular process, you would instead ensure fairness and transparency and strengthen public confidence in county government. I therefore ask that you reject items R2022-0153, 0156, and 0157. Instead, create a legitimate process with objective standards and full transparency to solicit and fund transformative projects to better the lives of everyone in Cuyahoga County. Thank you very much.
The last person, Ms. Liu.
Good morning, everybody. I'm here first to support the first item in our agenda. Mr. Frankfurt has been a very dedicated community member to support lots of projects done by private sectors or governments to improve people's life in this county. We can see how much he has been working for the Community Reinvestment Advisory Subcommittee, just for an example. However, the ARPA funds, the main purpose is to put everybody else on the table to recover from disasters like our recession and COVID-19, especially COVID-19. So the three items the other gentleman mentioned, in people's point of view, general public's point of view, are they really fit the purpose? Sure, I believe the clubhouse, golf clubhouse serve the purpose for that particular district. But when you have other community also needing the money to have a very big improvement, just for example, if you support ARPA funds to do demolition or to rebuild clubhouse, how about shelters? All these shelter buildings actually should be demolished and rebuilt to correct all the fundamental problems. Who would think of that? Nobody. So I'm not saying people do not deserve a good golf clubhouse, but comparatively, lots of basic human needs and the public services have not been fulfilled yet. So please reconsider those 3 items and definitely support the first item on the agenda. Thank you very much.
Yes, Madam Chair, that is all. That's the last person to speak for public comment. Madam Chair, your microphone.
We need to review our minutes of, from the June 1st Community Development Meeting. Have my colleagues had a chance to take a look at those minutes?
Move to adopt.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The minutes are approved. Now we have matters referred to committee. Madam Clerk?
Resolution 2022-0172, authorizing a contract with Frank Ford Consulting, LLC, in the total amount not to exceed $39,000 for the provision of mortgage lending research and technical assistance to Cuyahoga County Council for the period August 1st, 2022 to July 31st, 2023.
Thank you. Mr. Nani, are you going to give us a summary?
Yes. Good morning, council members. As you recall, the Community Reinvestment Advisory Subcommittee was established a few years ago to assist the county relative to the research of banking and financial transactions of the county and how the county could assist better in providing economic opportunities for its residents. One part of the work that the committee worked on was the lending practices of local financial institutions using the data that provided by Frank Ford. What's being recommended right now is a small contract with Frank Ford, who's here today, who can provide a little more detail on how he can assist the committee with research, as well as setting criteria for the next banking contract that the county will undergo. I believe it's next year when we do our next RFP.
But we need to start our work now.
Correct. But Frank is here. He can provide a little more detail.
Excellent. Mr. Ford, if you would come to the podium, please. As a preamble before this starts, I'd like to indicate that on occasion I have shared nerdy research details with Mr. Ford and find his work over the last innumerable years as we work to build the county land bank, to create more reinvestment activities with regional lenders, to be exemplar, and I'm glad that you have the time to include us in the work that we'd like to begin to evaluate and change as the county matures and as we find new options with our lenders. Frank, tell us about the work that you can provide to the county.
So there are 2 things, as was mentioned. One would be research. I've been doing research for over 30 years on bank lending, more recently in Cuyahoga County for the last 5 or 6 years. And I believe I've provided a link to the study that I did last November. I try to do this once a year. The other thing would be technical assistance. I've also been providing technical assistance. I started doing this 30 years ago in Denver. And then more recently, when I came back to Cleveland, I am from Cleveland. You know, there are two things that I think it makes sense for county council to be paying attention to. One is the historic problem of African-American communities, underserved communities, not having access to home purchase loans and home repair loans. The second, which occurred during the 2000s primarily, was when many lenders, instead of refusing to make loans, started to market and target African-American and underserved communities for subprime and predatory loans. That did a lot of harm, and we are still recovering from that harm, particularly in predominantly African-American communities, east side of Cleveland, many east inner ring suburbs. Still, their home prices have not recovered. So the research that I've been doing has either been looking at that first problem, access to or lack of access to mortgage lending and credit, and the other is looking at how are we recovering? How is the county and different parts of the county recovering from the subprime lending? So I've given, in the materials I've submitted, I've provided examples of both the technical assistance that I've done and the research that I've done. I might want to, just to close here, I'll draw your attention to a few of the findings from the research that I did last November. And this was, part of this was to look at some specific banks, 4 banks that have been considered or are being considered for national community benefits agreements. And one is KeyBank, Fifth Third, Huntington, and then US Bank. With KeyBank, one of the interesting findings was they had been a leader in home repair lending in Cuyahoga County. Over the last 5 years, their home repair lending dropped dramatically. They had not been a leader with home purchase lending. They were actually fairly low, and they made some improvement, but in year 5, in 2020, they declined. So that's not good. With regard to loans to underserved communities, low and moderate income families, while they did increase their lending, when you compare them to some of their peer lenders like Huntington, their lending is only a third of what Huntington has been doing. Fifth Third's home purchase lending decreased over the last 5 years. Their home repair lending did increase, but mainly in predominantly white communities, did not increase in the more underserved communities. Huntington's home purchase and home repair lending both increased over the last 5 years dramatically, which is very significant in comparison to their peer lenders. US Bank, very little improvement over the last 5 years. This is the 20,000-foot level view. I could go into much more detail, but I know we don't have time for that. Happy to do that at some other time. I could take questions if you have it.
To my colleagues, would any of you like to ask Mr. Ford questions?
We're going into a recession, if not already in a recession. So next year when you come before us to renew this contract, what are we going to hear?
Well, I'd like to think that what we're going to hear is the results from the work of the Reinvestment Advisory Subcommittee to encourage KeyBank to improve these numbers. That would be the first thing. With regard to the other numbers, I think it would require using some of the leverage of the county. You've got this contract with KeyBank that gives you significant leverage. And if there's any way to be looking forward to how can you leverage the results of other banks. Huntington, I would suspect, is going to continue to set the bar. I mean, honestly, until I looked at this, I had no idea that they were going to look that good. The question is, how do you get the other lenders to look that way and provide those results?
I just have a bad feeling as to where we're going, and I don't think any of the communities are going to be seeing any extensive ups from when our interest rates rise to where, unfortunately, I think they're going to go. Certainly, hopefully not to the 70s. Those of us that are children or teenagers of the 70s remember dramatically how that affected not just our parents, but us as teenagers.
Yes.
So I wish you well. I just have a bad feeling.
Well, last thing I'll say is that then, if there's one thing that I'm proposing to offer is to be the eyes on this, to provide the interpretation of the data that's available, to give you information. That's the first thing that I think all of us need to do, is be paying attention to what are the trends. Thank you.
And to my colleague, one of the things that we want to talk about is how we have the Federal Home Loan Bank and entities like them do partnerships with some of the lenders in this region so that we can do lower down payment assistance, work with PMI, work to make sure that interest rates are maintained low, especially for first-time home buyers. And those are all things that they're looking to work with us on right now.
And thank you for that, because that's where my question is going. We certainly had a housing bubble and crisis back in 2008 and 2009, where loans were approved and shouldn't have been approved. And it's good to hear that that kind of assistance is out there. But what is Huntington doing that is different than the other banks? How is the risk of making home loans to those that are low and moderate income? I know, personally, when I bought my first house, it was very, very difficult. You had to just, had to have an income, had to have so much down, refused at a few places. We were a small business, didn't have a lot of. So how do you balance the risk with
access? No, that's been the historic question, which was addressed in the 1977 Community Reinvestment Act, federal government. And it's interesting, the language of that says that banks should meet the credit needs of their entire community, white, black, whatever. But then there's a comma and it says, but consistent with safe and sound underwriting. And so that's been the challenge. And I think, just to take Huntington, for example, one of the things that they did was they looked at their loan officers are paid by incentive compensation. So the more they loan, the more they will make. And when a loan officer is looking at a loan in, say, Glenville or Slavic Village on a $50,000 house, and they're also looking at a loan in Moreland Hills for $300,000, the human nature is they're going to go to the one where there's going to be more money. And I think it doesn't mean that the $50,000 loan is an unsafe loan. So to address that, what Huntington did was they said, well, what if we provide a special or a compensation structure that says you get a base compensation for any loan starting from under $100,000, and then above that you get the prorated. And the idea was to incentivize loan officers to not turn their back on those lower priced loans, but to be willing to do them, and because they're going to get compensated. It's that kind of creative thinking, out of the box thinking, which I think was, now to give credit to, I will say some of the other banks are doing that too, but Huntington seems to have been more willing early on to take a look at these things. That's just an example.
May I follow? So your safe and sound underwriting is secure with that $50,000?
Yes. Yeah, that loan should not be made if, for example, the home doesn't appraise for that 50, or the borrower's income information shows they don't have the ability to repay that. Those are the two things that got us in trouble in the foreclosure crisis. Banks were looking the other way at that.
Good. Thank you.
It's a very good question. Thank you.
To the councilwoman, council president and I sat down with the regional president for Huntington after Mr. Ford gave us a report last year. I had a copy that I highlighted and dog-eared and scanned and then sent to the council president. And so we asked him to come in and sit down and talk with us. It is leadership's desire at Huntington to be fairly aggressive in marketing. And so we have not received the same courtesies from some of our other lenders. And part of it is I know that this is the leadership, most of them are local guys. And so you know how that small business motto goes, if a guy grew up in his hometown, his business is successful. He works a little bit harder here because this is home. That may be what's impacting some of the work that Huntington is doing. Any other questions? I'd like to get on the record that Councilwoman Sunny Simon has joined us. Council President.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Mr. Ford, for being here and for, again, this contract. I just can't help but think when I reflect around the conversations around the safe and the lack of, and the risk concerns, I just think of my own personal experience. My family grew up in a funeral home. I lived upstairs. The funeral home was downstairs. It's a small business, just starting. But over the years, as we looked to grow and to expand, we were looking for loans. We could not get them. We went to every bank. You name a bank, we went there throughout the 80s and early 90s. And the reality is segments of our community are redlined. Yeah. That's a reality. It's a myth to think that you cannot give good loans and that everything is normal and the same across the board and that they did not work hard enough, or they were not prepared or financially or fiscally sound enough to receive the loan, and that's why they did not get it. There are other factors. There are other factors, and redlining has been very well documented. It's clear, it's a reality, and we've been a living example of it. When we finally got a loan, it was only through the federal government's Empowerment Zone program. They came, they leveraged. Mayor Michael R. White literally said, if you don't make loans to the residents of this community, we're going to put our tax dollars elsewhere and send these to the banks. It became a national model. And with that, he brought to the table a bank. And I'll say at First Merit, they were the ones who stepped up to the table and gave us that loan for our business. And we repaid that loan. So for all the years that we could not get a loan, and then they brought them to the table, and our repayment on time of that loan over 10 years, it was a testament and an example that there were good loans, and ours was not the only one. So it is a reality. But what we received, many others need. We received a pretty building with pretty green grass out in front. We had an opportunity to increase our staff, create work opportunities for others, secure our own family's financial future. And that was only one example, and it should have been replicated and expanded across the red-lined areas. So again, I just want to say it's a myth that there are not good loans to be made.
Right.
And banks have some financial models that need to be updated and adhere to those CRA rules and policies. 10 years ago, I had the same conversation, but it was around contracting, okay? Are we giving out contracts in a fair way? So we studied them, and we have a study to this day that helps this county to look at the fair distribution of the contracts that we give at Cuyahoga County. A racial disparity study is what we did. And I see this in a similar vein. Let's start with the hard data. Let's look at the facts. And then we don't have to debate. It doesn't have to be anecdotal. Let's look at the hard evidence and go from there. So again, thank you for being here today.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. I'd like to refer this to the full council. Could I have a motion? Yes, I want to do it under suspension. Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I will second, and with the note that, again, you and I have been the primary sponsors and, as was said, directed these dollars, but of course, it will require the vote of full council before we move forward. So you have my second.
Nothing like having detail to the kinds of work we want to undertake. Thank you. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? This is forwarded under expedited manner to the full council. Thank you, Mr. Ford.
Thank you.
Mr. Nani.
Thank you.
We move on. Madam Clerk.
Resolution 2022-0186, authorizing a grant award to Cuyahoga Arts and Culture in the amount not to exceed $1,650,000 to provide support to the arts and culture mission-based nonprofit organizations in Cuyahoga County.
Mr. Herder, are you speaking to this today?
Good morning. Paul Herdig, Department of Development. I will speak briefly. I believe we have representatives here from both Cuyahoga Arts and Culture, and for the next related item, which is Assembly for the Arts. The Department of Development did prepare the grant agreements for both of these contracts. We'll administer them, and I would simply note this is a portion of the funding that was discussed between the county executive and council leadership, and was agreed that the amount of $3.3 million would be devoted for support to the arts. So if there's any specific questions for development, I can answer them. Otherwise, I'd like to yield to the agency representative.
And who's the agency representative today?
I believe we have Jill Paulson and Jeremy. Oh, Jeremy. Jeremy will speak to the next item, but they've apparently coordinated their presentation. So okay. Jill Paulson, Cuyahoga Arts and Culture, Jeremy Johnson, Assembly for the Arts.
Okay, hold on just a second. Can we read the second so that we can do both of them seamlessly, since they are related and there are rules of engagement for council that we can do that?
Resolution 2022-0187, authorizing a grant award to Arts Cleveland, doing business as Assembly for the Arts, in the amount not to exceed $1,650,000 to provide support to the artists and creative businesses based in Cuyahoga County.
All right. Welcome, folks. If for the record you would state your name and the organization and position.
Yes, thank you, Committee Chair and Council Vice President Stevens. My name is Jill Paulson. I'm the Executive Director of Cuyahoga Arts and Culture. We're the local public funder supporting nonprofits in every council district throughout the county. I see many of you when we come here to have our board appointments made, so thank you so much for your support at that point and also when we go to the ballot. Our goal is to ensure that residents in every single district participate, receive, and have arts and culture that represents who they are in their backyard. We at CAC say that we strengthen the community by investing in arts and culture. Today, along with my colleague Jeremy Johnson from Assembly for the Arts, who you'll hear from in a moment, we thank you for recognizing the vital role of arts and culture and that it's making in our communities. With this grant of $1.65 million as proposed by the county executive and Council President Jones, we will help upwards of at least 100 nonprofits working throughout the county, organizations large and small, recover and begin to emerge from COVID. We did provide some materials in previous conversations demonstrating the large impact that COVID has had on the creative economy and the nonprofits alone, which I'll speak to, and then leave the artists and businesses for Jeremy to speak to. We've seen at least 5,000 jobs impacted here in Cuyahoga County, revenue loss of over $170 million. And so this funding will be important to make sure that we engage and connect with many nonprofits in this community. We'll follow a similar process to what we did with CARES funding, when the county also invested in CAC to do sub-granting. So you'll look in several months, again, pending approval of this grant, CAC will issue very simple guidelines. We'll work with organizations, and our aim is to get funding to as many eligible nonprofits in Cuyahoga County as possible. From groups that you'll recognize, right, like Beck Center, Science Center, Caramoo House, to many groups that you might not be as familiar with, but that are doing really vital work in this community. Japo Cultural Arts, Baseball Heritage Museum, Chagrin Documentary Festival, right? So there's a lot of organizations that I think when we are able to make these sub-grants, you'll recognize either because they're based in your districts, right, or because they're providing programming in your districts, in schools, and the like. So with that, I will turn to my colleague, Jeremy
One question
Johnson.
before
Yes.
you move on. What is the range? The smallest grant you can apply for is $10,000 and the largest is what?
At this point, we're thinking that the dollars would actually be between a couple of $1,000s, upwards of potentially $75,000. It will depend on who submits and what we can do, but we are in conversations with the development department, and so through our regular reporting process, as we have those guidelines issued, we'll make sure to get them to the county.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson?
Good morning to the committee chair, our Council Vice President Stevens, and to the members of the committee. My name is Jeremy Johnson. I am the president and CEO of Assembly for the Arts. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization with the mission of strengthening and unifying Greater Cleveland's diverse arts and culture sector. I'm pleased to join my colleague Jill Paulson here. This is very intentional that we work in alignment. We are two distinct organizations. Cuyahoga Arts and Culture is a government agency, as you know. We are an independent nonprofit, but we work in alliance and in alignment. So I'm very pleased to address this body to, of course, underscore the importance of a seminal grant to support our creative economy. And just let me lay out, this is a three-legged stool. The nonprofit arts community is represented and is served by Cuyahoga Arts and Culture. But there are two other legs to this creative economy. Those are independent artists and small creative businesses. You all spoke earlier about the importance of creative businesses and investments. Assembly for the Arts, as a 501c3, we are able to pass through these important dollars to COVID-impacted individual artists and small businesses. Together, this three-legged stool constitutes our creative economy here in Northeast Ohio, a $9.1 billion industry that serves 62,500 jobs and delivers billions to our economy. So we are pleased at Assembly for the Arts to drive more COVID impact for those that have been COVID impacted to individual artists and small businesses, live music, performing arts businesses, but they do not fall under the usual nonprofits. So many fall through the cracks, and we're just grateful to be here to work in partnership with you and with Cuyahoga Arts and Culture. I won't repeat any of the details about the impact that COVID has had on the industry, but it is the worst impacted of all of our industries, of the creative industries, and we are really grateful to be here to make this request. We will likewise have policies, as we did with CARES, to make sure these are audited and accounted for when this is done, and that communities across Cuyahoga County, individual artists and small businesses will be served. I'm happy to take any questions or comments.
Do my colleagues have any questions? I love what they do, so I'm like ready to support them. You know, Cleveland Heights is my base, home for the arts.
Absolutely.
So a little slight bias there.
If I may ask a question then.
I'm gonna let the council
Go
president.
right ahead.
And you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay. Of the 1.65 million, will any go to administrative costs, and if so, how much?
There will be costs for a major accounting, as we did with CARES. So we will reserve costs to make sure that there's a special kind of audit for any federally connected or government connected funds. So we'll reserve funds for the administration of that audit.
Do you know yet if there's a percentage of?
Probably similar to how we did CARES, because grant making is CAC's business, we won't spend the dollars, other than maybe if there were a need for a special audit. I don't believe there will be, as these are general funds. But because the structure of Assembly, and I can let Jeremy obviously speak to that, they'll need likely more staff time devoted to make sure they get out into every nook and cranny in the community. So I'll leave for him to speak to, but as we did with CARES last time, our business model is grant making, so we can just do it as part of our normal work. This might be an add-on to all that you're already doing.
I will share, and this resonates with your earlier conversations. It is so important that we move beyond the usual suspects you often hear about these grant awards. At Assembly for the Arts, our mission is to expand the pie of resources and increase the equity. So we have already allocated time and effort to make sure all the artists and businesses from all of our neighborhoods, all of our communities across Cuyahoga are aware of this, that it's not just a Zoom call, that it's not just a webinar, but that we will be in the community to let them know. If you are an artist or small business impacted by COVID, here's how you access these dollars. That's very important to me personally, because having also worked in nonprofits and been a part of growing up on the east side of Cleveland, I realize and now seeing so many artists and small businesses that have not been able to access COVID-impacted resources. We are making clear that those dollars will be marketed through community engagement, and we will also have the audit as well. So we will be investing to make sure that the word is out.
So Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Again, I take that to mean there will be, again, minority reception of some of these dollars.
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
Positively.
The number 95, is that inclusive of everyone who will receive these dollars, or is this holding place or something?
Yeah, 95 was an initial goal that the county development department asked us to set. I think we'll by far reach more than that. We estimate that at least 150 organizations might be interested. And that's, again, just for the nonprofit vein. There'll be hundreds, I'm sure, businesses and artists that Jeremy can speak to.
Excellent.
We are already getting calls every day, texts, emails from artists and small businesses that are awaiting the opportunity to go back and have the jobs that are serving our community in Cleveland Heights and many other places.
And last, unless it's here, how long do you, what time frame do you expect to disperse these dollars over?
Again, for our portion of that grant serving nonprofits, pending council approval, we'll move immediately to issue a simple form, work with organizations, and then ideally have the dollars in the community by early fall. Whatever grants that we give to the community, CAC's board will approve, so we have several meetings coming up. So it's as expedient as a process as possible. Like Jeremy, we have groups calling us all the time trying to figure out if they hit a deadline or missed one, but that's our aim, dollars in community by early fall.
Same. We're going to get those dollars out as soon as we can, pending approval from this body.
My last question, if as the process goes through, as you're halfway through or even toward the end, could you send us maybe a PowerPoint or just a dashboard of how the monies have been distributed, demographics, and all of those?
We will be happy to share that with you, and looking forward to doing so.
Thank you now.
Councilwoman.
Thank you. And some of those questions were mine. Administrative costs was the first one. The 1.6 million is a pretty good amount of money, and you're going to be reaching out to many small, maybe one person artist. I know in my area where we have our arts councils and shows and all that, and we're glad to have them. When you say they're COVID impacted, what do you mean by that? What is it that they're going to tell you as to, I mean, I understand businesses were COVID impacted and some shut down and getting together and all of those restrictions. How did it affect the arts industry?
Well, in a word, devastating. I've spoken with musicians, I've heard from visual artists. When the impact of COVID hit, they shut down. Whether they could have been live musicians, their work stopped. I've spoken with artists who served as, for example, musicians who worked at, whether it's on plays or at shows, their livelihood was with churches. Funerals stopped for 2 years. I've heard stories of artists who've had to get on food stamps or SNAP, or had to move in with relatives. It's been devastating across the board, both the nonprofits, and things are finally coming back, but we are not back to normal. So I could talk about any manner of creatives where it's been very much a struggle. Even with all of the other reliefs we've had from various levels of government, it's been especially difficult for the creative industry.
Thank you for that, and I know myself, there's been many events, weddings, all of that takes entertainment or an artist that shows his wares and was not able to. What kind of process, and I'm glad to hear that you have a panel that will be looking at these different projects that are coming forward. So how do you determine what will or will not make the cut?
Sure, Councilwoman Baker. To be clear, CAC's work generally, we work through grant panels. What we'll be doing in this process is reaching out to all organizations who have in recent years gotten grants. So we're already folding in groups that we're monitoring their financials and making sure that they're doing work. So we'll have that level of accountability. And then because the goal is participation, and so more money, dividing the money up into more groups, so smaller grants. We figure that this will be a good way to reach as many as possible. It won't be necessarily about demonstrating any certain writing, but folks will submit to us, as they always do, their financials and their information on where they're serving the community. We hope to keep these funds as general as possible so that organizations who know what they're doing can invest them where they need to. Odds are they will be in jobs.
Thank you. For the Assembly of the Arts, who you're reaching people that perhaps never received a grant, that are struggled and aren't always recognized for struggling. How are you going to, first of all, I know you're going to get out there in the community, you're going to let everybody know, but that's...
There is a process. So we will be asking, to show evidence if they had, evidence of cancellations, evidence of engagements that were no longer, how they were impacted because of that, whether it's, you mentioned, weddings, special events, festivals that they normally would have played that did not happen over the last 2 years or so. And also evidence that they have received income in the past for their artwork. That's very important, that they were and have received income as a working creative. That's going to be very important.
Okay, good to know, and I wish you both luck. It's a great industry, and I'm glad to see we're finally coming back to what we considered normal, only back to 2019. So thank you for your work.
Thank you. Thank you all.
If there are no further questions, we have to vote on each of these items separately. So, do I have a motion to support Resolution 0186? Yes.
I would move 2022-0186 to the full council under suspension of the rules.
Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you, Madam Baker. Is there any conversation? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, let us move to the second one. Do I hear a resolution?
Excuse me, Madam Chair.
Yes?
We have an amendment for the next one.
Okay. Resolution 0187 has been amended so that it simply says authorizing an award grant in an amount not to exceed $1,650,000 to provide support to artists and creative businesses based in Cuyahoga County, authorizing the county executive to execute contract 2479 and all other documents consistent with said award in this resolution, declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective. Was there anything else to go with that amendment?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay. Do I have a motion in favor of this one?
Move to
Ms.
adopt the amendment.
Thank you, Councilwoman Simon. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, both of these will move on to the full body of county council.
Excuse me, Madam Chair. Now we have to vote to send it to the council as amended.
Okay.
I would move 2022-0187 to the full council under second reading suspension as amended.
And Ms. Simon supports this again. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Madam Clerk, are we good now? Thank you.
Thank you.
Resolution 2022-0188, authorizing a grant award to the Cuyahoga County Land Reutilization Corporation in the amount not to exceed $2 million to match funds with Ohio Department of Development for the demolition of vacant and distressed properties in suburban Cuyahoga County communities.
Mr. Hertig, I see you have a companion today.
Good morning, Paul Hertig with the Department of Development, and in a moment I'll turn this to Kim Kimlin from the Cuyahoga County Land Reutilization Corporation, which we all call the County Land Bank. Again, this is one of the items that were agreed upon between the county executive and council leadership to be from the funds that we have due to ARPA, and the Department of Development will administer these funds. I will add as well, this does fall squarely within the mission of the Department of Development. Supporting the return of vacant properties to productive use is very important strategically. And if there's any technical questions, I stand ready to answer them. If not, I'll turn it over to Kim Kimlin.
Do my colleagues any technical questions? Okay, we can proceed.
Good morning. So the land bank is
For
pursuing...
the record, I need you to say your name and title and organization again, please.
Sure. I'm Kim Kimlin. I am the Director of Community Stabilization for the Cuyahoga Land Bank. And good morning. We have submitted an application to the Ohio Department of Development for additional demolition funding. However, that funding does require a 25% match. And so we are requesting a $2 million grant that would allow us to leverage about $6 million of state funding to continue to remove blight in Cuyahoga County. So far of the 2 million, we've identified about 1.7 million of properties that would be eligible for this program, and we're hoping that the committee will consider our request today.
Is this exclusively residential, or is it residential and mixed use, or residential and commercial?
It is primarily residential, but it does include apartment buildings. There are a few other properties that are like municipal. There's a couple municipal properties, but it's, for the most part, it's singles and doubles.
Do any of my colleagues have questions? Ms. Baker?
Yes, and thank you. You have 1.7 million allocated. So given you have that allocated, do you have a listing of what those properties are?
We do.
Okay, can you submit them? Are they many properties, or are they just a few?
It's about 66 properties.
66.
Yeah, and actually I do have about 32 are 1 to 3 families, and about 30 are primarily multifamilies.
Okay. And can you give us this? These are in suburban cities?
Yes, these are all in suburban cities.
Are
The
they-
land bank is separately applying for funds for properties in the city of Cleveland with separate match.
Right. So I'm a suburban supporter of my district. So I would just interested, is there a concentration of what cities you're looking at?
Yes, I'd say the biggest concentration is in the city of East Cleveland. That's the biggest one by far.
Okay.
The others are Brecksville, Brooklyn, Cuyahoga Heights, Euclid, Middleburg Heights, North Royalton, Parma Heights, and Seven Hills.
None of those are in my district. Do mayors come to you and apply for these dollars? How do you know what suburban cities are in need?
We sent out information about this program was coming. We knew last July it was announced. So in September, we sent a survey through the Mayors and Managers Association to all of the communities in the county, letting them know this was coming, and asked them to complete a survey telling us what their needs were. And so a number of these came to us through that. And then we got a couple of other people who called us when they heard about the program. They didn't respond to the survey, but they followed up when they heard about the program. So that's primarily how this came to be.
The amount you're asking for is 2 million. You're leveraging that with the state to increase it to 6 million, am I understanding?
Yes, they would fund 6 million matched by the 2 million for a total of 8 million.
So you still have a ways to go then in identifying properties.
Yes, we applied in February, and we're waiting, and it's all contingent on approval of this. And we're hoping there'll be clawed back funds that then they do another round, but we're not guaranteed that yet. We just don't know yet.
If I may continue.
Certainly.
So given the amount of funds potentially that you're looking for, will you go back to your suburban communities and reassess perhaps those that did not take advantage of it? And
Yes, we could do that if they do, when we hear about a second round and the timing of that. The one caveat is all of these properties have to be done by next May, so we're hoping they announce soon availability of additional funds.
well, I'll certainly bring this to the attention of my mayors and make sure that, I know in Fairview Park, they've struggled with some buildings that they would like to see. At one time, they had hotel buildings that they themselves put on the ballot in order to be taken down, which costs, of course, the taxpayers. So I will go back to them and make sure they're aware of this program, and I appreciate the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Ms. Simon?
Madam Chair, thank you. I have a question about the Cleveland application and the match. That match would be sought from the city of Cleveland, correct?
Actually, the land bank will be providing that
Right.
match.
The land bank, okay.
Yes, for the city of Cleveland properties. Some of those are nuisance abatements for the city, but others are properties we'll be pulling from forfeiture.
Do you
The
know
city-
why? Do you know why the city's not matching outright?
The city is separately I think they approved using 16 million of their ARPA funding for demos they will be doing. We're just assisting them with this right now with a set of them that we put into this application.
And as a follow-up to Councilwoman Baker's questions about some of the suburbs, is there more of a demand than there is funds? Or is it simply a number that was selected and it will be allocated accordingly? I mean, how did you determine this, the sum? Are there more people out there in the suburbs, more cities that need this demo funding?
There are a few properties that people were hoping to put into this. We were hoping there'd be like this round 2. Now it's a little unclear. We're actually going to be at a meeting on Wednesday that ODOT will be participating in, and we're hoping to get more clarity about whether they're going to allow this additional funds that they might claw back. So there's potential for other suburbs.
That are waiting?
Yeah, that are interested, yeah.
Thank you.
If there are no further questions,
Question.
Mr. President?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Of the commercial demos, are any of them tied to economic development projects? Are any of the cities looking to do something, but because of this burden of a vacant building, they were not able to do so?
Well, I know the city of Brook Park they do want to demolish a hotel, but they didn't notify us in time for the first round. So that would be one that would potentially be a good redevelopment site. But it's dependent on ODOT freeing up more money. So
Let me ask, do you look at it in that context when you're looking to demolish some of these buildings, and maybe Paul weigh in if necessary, but do you look at it in that way and to say if we demolish, it's actually an economic development opportunity if we can put the monies toward this particular demolition of a major building?
yeah, I mean, anybody who contacted us, we've worked with. And as long as their project was eligible, we put it in our application.
Looks like Paul wants to win and got a lifeline there.
Council
Former
President,
friend.
I would just add, you know, as Kim has indicated, they did do a solicitation countywide. We were aware of it. And they did, I believe, take care of everyone that responded by their deadline. However, I will say in general, often when you're looking at redeveloping a site, you have demolition costs, you have cleanup costs, you have the infrastructure costs. So certainly demolition is always a consideration. Certainly our hope, for example, in East Cleveland, with a lot of demolition going on, this is going to pave the way for future development. It may not be known today what the next use will be, but it's certainly our hope that by getting some land ready and assembled, there will be future development.
Thank you.
Okay, if there are no further questions, can I hear a motion, please?
Go ahead, President. Is this a motion to move this resolution in the full council with a recommendation of passage and under suspension or not?
I didn't hear a need for it to be under suspension.
So just to move without suspension with recommendation of approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, this moves forward to council. Madam Clerk?
Resolution 2022-0153, awarding a total sum not to exceed $4 million to the City of Parma for the purpose of constructing the Ridgewood Golf Course Clubhouse and Event Center, District 4.
This is in the City of Parma, so my colleague, Mr. Tuma, would you like to say a few words?
Yes, I would, Madam Chairwoman, Vice President. I appreciate the opportunity to speak on the committee, not being a standing member. I would just like to say that this project is the culmination of the diligent work of many individuals and continued cooperation between Cuyahoga County and the City of Parma. These efforts have allowed us to reach this all-important turning point in this multi-phase project, the rebuild of the Parma Ridgewood Golf Course Clubhouse and Event Center. I want to thank County Executive Budish, Cuyahoga County Council President Jones, and my colleagues on County Council for their steadfast support of this project. I would ask that you continue this support in committee today. As leaders in our representative democracy, we understand firsthand the impact the global pandemic has had on the economy in our region. I'm enthusiastic about the gainful, long-term economic and social impact this new clubhouse and communities event center will have on the city of Parma and the region. The funding for the second phase of this community project emanates from the ARPA funding distributed to Cuyahoga County, which were provided in an effort to re-envision the post-pandemic existence in this country, including addressing negative economic impacts of the public health emergency, including providing economic support for hard-hit sectors such as hospitality, and investing in water and sewer infrastructure. I believe this is an economically transformational project which will positively impact Parma and surrounding communities for decades. As President John F. Kennedy once said, "A rising tide lifts all boats." This project will create new jobs, foster economic growth, and build a greater sense of community pride. Make no mistake, this new facility will not just be a new amenity for golfers. This new facility will also be accessible to every resident in Parma, including charitable and private organizations and its adjacent communities, and serve as a vital gathering place for important functions such as weddings, anniversaries, graduations, birthdays, conferences, and other significant family and community events right near the heart of our town center. For nearly 100 years, the former Parma Ridgewood Golf Clubhouse served Parma residents and our community. Plans for demolishing and rebuilding the Ridgewood Golf Course Clubhouse have been considered for many years by Parma officials dating back to my time on City Council. As I've stated before, working together, we now have an opportunity to build a new clubhouse event center that we can proudly call our own, that can be used for decades, and that can help generate increased economic activity while better serving the needs of our entire community. I thank you for your consideration today. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I see that you've come forward today to talk about this project. Please identify yourself for the record.
Sure, my name is Tim DeGeeter. I'm the mayor of Parma. Good morning, Chairwoman Stevens and members of the committee, and thank you to Councilman Tuma for those comments. Also, Parma officials joining us today include our Law Director, Tim Dobek. He is also the chair of the Events Center Committee, which is made up of public officials, a Parma Area Chamber of Commerce member, residents, both golfers and non-golfers, who are volunteering their time to assist the city with input. Do we have the slide presentation? Perfect, thank you. Assisting the city with input on designing a new event center. Recreation Director Mickey Vittardi is also here, as well as our Service Director, Tony Vanella. Before we move forward with our presentation, I'd like to step back and publicly thank our Councilman Scott Tuma for his leadership and allowing us to be here today. I appreciate his hard work and consistent communication with city leaders on issues affecting our community. He is always accessible and ready to assist on any issue that may arise. So thank you for your service. With Councilman Tuma's direction, assistance, and guidance for providing demolition funding, as well as the entire county, on March 21st, the city held a ceremonial demolition event at which Councilman Tuma and Land Bank President Gus Frangos served as feature speakers. The event capped the hard work of Councilman Tuma, along with many county officials, County Executive Budish, that secured demo funds in the amount of $175,000 from the Community Development Fund and $50,000 from the Land Bank. These funds allowed the city to make a significant first step of not only demoing our old clubhouse, but to move forward on a new event center for our community and golf course. It is a step that is 30 years in the making. It is time. And it is terrific, exciting that we've made that move and for the incredible future use of an event center for Parma, surrounding communities, and for golfers and non-golfers alike. As you can see from the slides, it was something that had been needed for many decades. This is our old clubhouse. Currently, our golf course is operating out of a triple ride trailer that has worked well, and we continue to host golfers, leagues, outings, and our popular junior program for kids. The county and the land bank were remarkable partners to allow the city to open the course for spring. They assisted with many utilities, services, and other punch list items to open the temporary clubhouse. So thank you again, Councilman Tuma, County Executive Bush, and Land Bank President Gus Frangos. So this is some of the pictures from the demo. Here's a small video. Went down pretty easy.
Was that you operating that, Tuma?
I was supposed to, but they chose not to, which was probably a good idea.
And this is the temporary facility we're working out of. And again, the county was very helpful to assist with utilities and other punch list items to get us open. Funding. When I was last here in this council's chambers requesting demo funds, it was always a shared goal with Councilman Tuma and Parma officials that this was always a multifaceted project and that the city would return here to seek additional funds for our event center. We just didn't know that the timeline would significantly advance. Now with the $4 million ARPA funds that may be available towards the estimated $9 million cost of the event center, this transformational project is moving in a major right direction. Please know this is one of Parma's largest ever economic development projects. It will have a tremendous legacy effect not only for Parma, but for our region. So I greatly appreciate Councilman Tuma reaching out to the mayors and city leaders in his district seeking our input on what are the city's most needs for county funds. For us at the city, it clearly was the event center project. And again, this project is not just for golfers. So I thank you for listening to us at the local level, Councilman Tuma, and supporting our request for funding. As stated, we envision that the center will be utilized for golfers and non-golfers. It will host weddings, parties, other events that will attract surrounding residents for non-golf events. Additionally, we anticipate it will include golf simulators for winter months. It will be a 12-month utilized center that create jobs and bring folks to Parma. The course is located in the center of our city, and I've heard from golfers that it's described as a hidden gem, which I don't like, because you're proud to show gems off, and this project, we believe, is a diamond. While being built, it will create construction jobs, which will be union, as we have a local project labor agreement city ordinance. So as for a progress update since the demo of the clubhouse, currently an event center evaluation committee consisting of the service director, the recreation director, city auditor, a council member, and myself are reviewing 9 design professional submittals for an architect. This process is part of the request for qualifications the city sent out. After the selection of a design professional, this next step is to select a construction manager at risk. The goal is to select a construction manager later this summer or fall. Next, I briefly want to cover how this project is another regional project and economic driver for our area. Our city motto is progress through partnerships. The city has many partners from many areas. The Sewer District, NOACA, ODOT, Army Corps of Engineers, West Creek Preservation, Cuyahoga Library, Metro Parks, to name a few. The county, nevertheless, is one of our best as well. Our surrounding communities are also partners. Remember, Parma is Ohio's 7th largest city. We are bigger than Youngstown and Canton. As a prime example of partnering, we look no further than the Parma Seven Hills partnership from 2012. As sponsored by then Parma City Councilman Tuma, the city's entered into agreement to allow Parma residents to join Seven Hill Rec Center at a discounted rate since Parma does not have a rec center. In turn, Seven Hills residents receive a discount rate at our golf course, outdoor pools, and ice centers, since they don't have those amenities. It is this type of cooperation between mayor, city council, and residents that move our region forward. As with the event center, we have reached out to Parma Heights and Seven Hills, which also make up our city school districts, informing those community leaders that when built, their residents will receive a continuing partner discount for golf and rentals at the event center. Next, I want to bring your attention to a study from Oklahoma State University on golf and the positive impacts for local economies. The slide sets forth those impacts. Please know our course is at the center of our city, at the front door of the shops of Parma, the heart of our city, easily accessible by surrounding communities and a short drive from 480. I also previously mentioned our successful junior golf program. It is directed by our club manager and PGA pro Dave Tuba. It is in partnership with First Tee Cleveland for kids and up to teens. It draws many surrounding city and Parma children at an incredible, affordable cost. We're very proud of developing the love of golf. So in closing, thank you, Councilman Tuma, for accepting our request for the City Event Center at Ridgewood. And again, I close with this. The project fits the ARPA funds guidance for projects. It is transformational, lasting for generations of joy, and we'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
More of a statement, and those of us up here that don't golf probably don't know how important the clubhouse is. And done right, and I have no doubt that you'll do it right, that's where your money's going to really be coming in on the events that are marketed to, as you said, the weddings and parties and things like that. To have that in the middle of the city, the first time I drove by that, I was a bit younger and I couldn't believe what I was seeing in the middle of Parma, a golf course. So I wish you the best of luck, and I know you'll do a fabulous job on the clubhouse itself. I think maybe you need a new name for it than clubhouse, because I don't think it really transfers well, at least in the press, as to the importance of this to the game of golf. So I know golfers will respect it and understand it, but those that are having birthday parties and showers and the like will really enjoy that facility.
Thank you, Councilman. You hit it right on the head. This is not just for golf. It's not just a clubhouse. It's an event center that can be utilized with non-golfers, a place that they can come, a gathering space. You know, anticipating golfers staying, spending more money, non-golfers coming up. You know, if you have different activities up there, so. It's an economic driver. We're excited about it. You look around, different city courses have facilities. Perfect examples in North Olmsted. They recently did some upgrades to their event center. So we're trying to say it's just more than, it's not just golf, it's more than that. So thank you for those kind words.
Thank you, and thank you for being here today. It is an exciting project. A couple things I just want to make sure are clear and on the record. This is owned by the city of Parma. This
Correct.
is not a private sector.
Correct.
City of Parma owns it, operates it, pays for it, employs. This is your facility.
We own it. They are our employees. You are correct.
And as mayor of Parma, this is your request. This was not something that said, why don't you do this? This was something that you said, we could really use this event center to enhance the quality of life for the people that live in my city.
Councilwoman, yes, to me, mayor requests, but also to our administration, our elected law director, others, our auditor who's elected, who is serving on the events, on the selection for the design. Everybody's in agreement. I have not heard any public city official, administrated or elected at this point, come back and say, this is a bad idea.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
And you believe that this will enhance the people that live in Parma, their life and quality of life?
Without question, and that goes beyond our borders. I think it's also surrounding to Parma Heights, Seven Hills, North Royalton. It's easy access on there, and it's right in the center of town. The location couldn't be more perfect.
That was my next question, is you believe that this is a regional draw, that people outside of your city will be using the event center for the type of occasions that you've already mentioned?
Most definitely, just not beyond the junior golf or the average player, but when there's outings, and I think the county judges has a golf outing we may have hosted, so it brings folks from outside of Parma to come enjoy the course clubhouse. That will just be expanded tremendously with an event center, bringing more folks in within the region, touch pointing the city of Parma.
Thank you. And lastly, can you talk a little bit more about your partners? It's not just the city of Parma and the county. You have other partners that you kind of listed. Can you go a little bit more into that?
Yeah, so I mentioned with, we reached out to the two communities, Parma Heights, Seven Hills, who make up the city school district, letting them know that, in my comments on that partnership, Seven Hills has a rec center. We don't. We have an ice skating rink, indoor, outdoor pools, and our golf course. They don't have those many. So we entered an agreement to allow those residents to get a better deal at our facilities. Well, that will continue here with the event center and broaden with Parma Heights, Seven Hills on here. There's also a great opportunity for, as we look at the footprint and move forward with our project, to bring in the sewer just to take a look. Obviously, stormwater is a huge thing. The golf course is very helpful for us, that it's green space, that it's open, that it captures stormwater. So as we move forward, they would be brought in. Also, during the committee process that those citizens are working on, that's at the head by our law director, we have worked with the metro parks. That Brian Zimmerman had reached out to us and said, hey, we'd like to come in and talk, see what the direction you're going with. So we've had that asset as well. So as we continue to move the process, we don't want to do it alone. We want to bring other folks in. It only makes sense.
Good, thank you. Those are points I needed to hear. Thank you.
Thank you. So what is and you might have touched on this, the full timing of this project, and if this would be all of it, or if there'll be more to build on later?
So, as I mentioned, the process, we're looking to pick a architect out of those 9 submissions with that committee, which actually we'll have a second meeting this week of that. Then you pick a construction at-risk manager. So it will take time for the architect to design this. We're anticipating probably, we hope, 2 years is the timeline, as you can tell. And then we will have some additional funding sources we're looking at. One of the things is our Justice Center. That bond falls off in 2 years. And there's some other things we're looking at as well. So this will be a 2-year process, just 1 year at least to get the design by it. We all know how long that takes, the engineering design. So, but it's an exciting project, and it's been needed for a while over there to move forward. So because of the county allowing us for those demolition funds, that gave us the opportunity to go the first step, and now, a little shorter timeline for our process on getting the $9 million that's required for the build.
And how has this been received by the residents of Parma?
Very positive. Surprising, a significant, I don't want to reference specific social media sites, but a lot more positive, a lot of people commenting saying, this is great. We don't have a place like this in Parma as non-golfers, that to rent out a place to host an event, maybe a small wedding, that's in the heart of our city. So it's been well received. And when I'm out in the community, I haven't had any come up and say, Mayor, all you elected officials, you're out of your mind. They talk about other things. But this one's been, I think, very well received.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. President.
Well, I just want to echo all that has been said by our colleagues today, and just commend you and your staff for the hard work you've done in putting forward this application, and just to let you know that I support you. And you may add my name as a sponsor to this as well.
Thank you, President.
Madam Clerk, would you also add my name to this as a sponsor? And Mr. Gallagher, Ms. Baker,
Simon.
Ms. Simon, thank you.
Thank you, Council.
I think you have the support, and now we need a motion.
I'm not on the committee, but if I,
President or,
Yes.
or Chair?
I will make a motion that we move this to the full council. Do we need suspensions or
Is there a second? Thank you.
full 3 readings?
Okay, full 3 readings, and we will, any opposed? All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. This moves forward to the full committee, to the full council. Congratulations, gentlemen.
Just real quick, thank you to my colleagues on the committee and for your continued support. And thank you to Mayor DeGeeter, Law Director Dobek, Mr. Vittardi, and Mr. Vanella for coming out today, and for the leadership and vision of the officials in the city of Parma. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Next on our agenda.
Resolution 2022-0156, awarding a total sum not to exceed $3,500,000 to the City of Strongsville for the purpose of the Strongsville Town Center Enhancement and Walkability Initiative, District 5.
Good morning. My name is Tom Persiak. I'm the mayor of the city of Strongsville, and with me this morning is our Economic Development Director, Brent Painter. First of all, just allow me to thank you. Thank you for allowing us to present here today and to emphasize the importance on the redevelopment of our downtown, almost 82 acres of our downtown area. I specifically want to extend a personal thank you to our former council president and a member of the county council, our own Michael Gallagher, who also lives in the city of Strongsville. I also would like to extend a thank you to Nan Baker. Her mother lives in our community. Her daughter lives in our community. So I think these are two very reliable sources.
Have 2 allies on council? Is that
I
what you're
didn't say
talking
that.
about?
I just,
Oh, okay.
just, you know, Michael is, Michael's a friend. He's a personal friend.
Michael's Michael, we know that.
So anyways, and Purnell, you knew you should have came to me when I ran the bank. You would have never had a problem getting a loan.
All right, that's good to know.
Anyways, at this point, I'll turn this over to Brent, and then we'll both be available for any questions that you may have. Thank you for your consideration.
Good afternoon. If we could have the PowerPoint up.
For the record, you have to say your name,
Yes,
who
sure.
you represent, and your title.
Great. I'm Brent Painter, Economic Development Director with the City of Strongsville. And I will go through this. I know all this information in the application will be sensitive to the time of all of you. As the mayor reiterated, our downtown center is 82 acres. This area stretches from one of the busiest intersections in Cuyahoga County, which is Pearl Road and 82, back to one of the busiest county library satellite operations, the Strongsville County Library, to our rec center, a very large facility. We have a regional dispatch center that now is housed to 7 different communities in Cuyahoga County, and is visited by hundreds of thousands of visitors each and every year, from our homecoming festival to our Winter Wonderland celebration. Again, this is an area that is very highly used. And it's also an area that's been very highly invested in. We've had over $66 million of investment in our town center. A large portion of that is for our new middle school. The city schools consolidated 2 middle school buildings into 1 new facility. We have a new police headquarters and council chambers, maybe not new anymore. It's getting, I don't want to say middle-aged, but it's been there. We, as I mentioned, a regional dispatch center. Each of the intersections around this area has been redesigned in the last several years, and I'll go through some studies on that. If you've been to the area, We have a beautiful new retail development, Westwood Commons with Square 22, a standalone Mitchell's Ice Cream that's very popular along our community. And then some great civic projects. We have a new emergency food bank that's been built by our Rotary Club, and also a safety town in the region. And as I mentioned, this area has been studied very heavily and with great partners, one of which being the county. Through the County Planning Commission, we did a master plan update in 2019. This area was a major focus of that study, and a lot of the suggestions we have are through that plan. We did a wayfinding analysis looking at different signage. A great study done through NOACA, their Transportation for Livable Communities program, was just centered on the town center district and ways we should look at redeveloping this area. And even back in 2009, we did a walkability study with NOACA. So you can see all the partners and the amount of time that we've spent studying this area. This has been something we've been very diligent on and very deliberate with. And each of those studies has had public input, stakeholder participation, and they're all available on our website. And through all that, this Town Center initiative was born with two main goals and initiatives that we've pushed forward. One being improving the connectivity and walkability in this area, which I'll show you a couple maps on. And then two, constructing new community amenities within the Town Center that'll help the quality of life, not only for our residents and all the visitors we have in the area, but also our local workforce. As an economic development director, we have to talk about economic development. So first, I'll just quickly go through some of the enhanced connectivity and walkability. As you can see on this map, within our town center, we have our regional dispatch center. We also have our emergency food bank. Right now, those areas are not well connected to public transportation, along with our library. Through this plan, we'd be extending new walkways, new pathways to allow better walkability from Pearl Road for low to moderate income individuals within our community. They have to utilize those assets to actually reach those. We're also talking about adding a roundabout to help traffic flow and enhance signage within the region. This is an overall overview of the area, and you can see some of the new paths that we're talking about, new ways to connect the different great amenities that we have in our community, and have visitors that are on our commons for the rib burnoff be able to walk down to a new ADA compliant playground, be able to use the county library system and do it in a more efficient and effective way.
Talk about the school.
Absolutely, and let's see if I can go back. Yeah, so with our schools, we've redone the intersection in front of Pearl Road that'll cut across Pearl Road to create better connectivity. Right now, we have a lot of students that are going to our middle school that are going to the library after. I like to think mainly the library, but also the rec center, the local retailer in the area. And by creating better pathways and walkways, we're hoping to make it a more safe, welcoming environment for those students. Let me see. Yeah, this is how we can go back. So quickly, I'll go through some of the community amenities too. And again, before we talk about that, it was very important for us to get public opinion on this, to get input from our residents. So in September of last year, we put out a community amenities survey to our residents. Said, what would you like to see in the town center? How can we improve quality of life? And one of the responses that we received were over 1,000 responses from our residents. And you can see an outdoor pool, a splash pad, new playground were very popular features. So we're in the process right now of working with Brandstetter Carroll to design the layout of the area for community gathering space, for a new community pavilion, much like the clubhouse at the Parma Ridgewood Club. We'd be adding a new community pavilion to host area events and birthday parties, weddings. We're also looking at having a band shell for our community band that right now doesn't have a good place to host concerts. A new ADA compliant playground, a big request that we've had. Some of our playgrounds in the area aren't ADA compliant. That'll correct that. Different water features, recreational features in the area. And with that, last thing I'd mention is we've really made this a community event. You can see we have a fundraising committee. every one of our major civic groups is on our fundraising committee. Our Rotary Club, our Chamber of Commerce is very involved, our City Club. Each one of those groups is very vested in helping make this a great project for the city. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? If not, could I hear a motion? I have a question. Oh, you have a question, Ms. Baker?
Madam Chair, just one quick mention. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, sir, for coming.
Welcome.
As the mayor said, he came on a little bit into my term on city council, and everyone, when they think of Strongsville, thinks we have all this money and all kinds of great things. Well, back before he started, was it 70,000 in the bank we had?
Not much.
Not much. And when he won, he goes, "What should I do?" I said, "When you see these books, you are not going to believe it." And you have turned that city around in your tenure to the point where we're one of the very few communities in Ohio with that AAA rating. Your direction has been something I've always admired. Your friendship, something I've appreciated. And I'm originally from Lakewood, and when I moved out to Strongsville, it was like moving out to the hills, because there's all the wide open spaces. In Lakewood, you have the shops on the streets and the neighbors, and a priest friend of mine said that, Strongsville doesn't have what Lakewood had, and that's front porches where everybody knew each other. And that's true, but slowly we're turning that around with the extension of Pearl Road, and we're connecting a city of the old and the new. We had the new community, and then we had the farming community. And we're turning the rural more into living, maintaining the green spaces with the unbelievable advantage of the metro parks bisecting us all the way down. It is such a treasure to have them and a relationship with them. We've concentrated on the center of town when I was there, and after I was there, obviously you saw all the work the city has done. One thing Strongsville does their homework. And I think you presented that today. And if we are able to provide these funds to get this project done, I would hope my colleagues would see the benefit in that. And again, thank you for all you do for my hometown, Strongsville, Ohio. And if I could ask the president to move the legislation.
Oh,
I think we have a
one.
question.
Thank you. And I just want to be clear that this is directed by you, Mayor, and the leadership that you have in the city of Strongsville. This is a project that you are bringing forward to us because this is what you feel the city of Parma needs to enhance.
Strongsville.
I'm sorry, city of Strongsville, to enhance the quality of life. What did I say? Parma, sorry.
Absolutely, Nan. At the end of the day, this is something that we have worked on for years. But as always, it's always been what comes first. And as Michael has alluded to earlier in his comments, our town, for the most part, is now finally all developed as far as residential. There are some areas that need to be developed. But in those developments, as you are aware, we have pools and we have basketball courts and things. So that's why we waited, and that's when we called in the county and said, please, let's update our master plan now that we're done, and identify to us what you believe is some of the needs of the community. And this is the last piece. Because as Michael will tell you, when he first came and when I first came to town, the town was not developed. For the most part, the residential end is done. And we have 5,500 kids in our public schools. We have another 500-600 kids in our Catholic school. And they will all tell you the need for this type of project in our center of town. Now, I'll go a step further because I'm very involved in the business community. At the end of the day, these are the type of enhancements that businesses like Clark Reliance, SwageLock, and all the other ones are looking for because their employees want to use this during the day or before the day they start their work or after they finish their work day, because we do extend this to them. They are a part of our community during the day. I mean, it's something that's pretty much realized throughout not only our residents, but also our residents that are there every day. Thank you.
Thank you, and I am familiar with Strongsville. It's a wonderful city. This piece of it certainly, I believe, will enhance the quality of life, just as you described it, and I appreciate you coming back and just nailing that down. Thanks.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Simon.
Good morning, Mayor. Thanks for coming, and thank you.
Good morning. How are you? Haven't
Good.
seen you for a
Yeah,
while.
I know. Thank you for using the Cuyahoga Planning Commission for
yes.
your master plan.
They were
We appreciate
absolutely
that.
wonderful.
And really, we believe provide quite a tool for the communities. And I think you already spoke to this, but this project is consistent with that master plan and really is just finishing up what that envisioned, correct? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. The pool, the survey from the community said they wanted a pool in the center. Do you have other pools also?
We have an indoor pool in our rec center. They want an outdoor pool at this time. And that just isn't a part of this program at this time. The survey with the residents, believe it or not, especially for the younger people, preferred the splash pad. So we said, fine.
Well, thank you very much. I'm impressed by Strongsville, but our committee hasn't heard yet from the communities I represent. So we were kind of just really enjoying what each community has for its residents, and we'll see how each presentation goes. But I see a line of consistency, of course, with quality of life and how important it is to make sure that the residents stay. And something I care a lot about is urban sprawl, and this is really a huge factor, I believe, in retaining and attracting residents, not only to the cities, but also to the county as a whole.
But all ages. That's especially the pavilion we're putting up. So many things are being designed. I hate to say this, from cradle to grave, but that's what it's all about, yes.
Okay, thank you so much.
Madam Clerk, if I could, I know I'm not on the committee. If anybody else wants to speak first, that's fine. I just want to express my enthusiasm for this project as well. The first thing I see on here is a true community gathering place, and that's exactly the type of thing I was talking about in Parma that I see, happening in Strongsville. And Strongsville is a great community. They do let me outside the borders of Parma every so often, but it's a great community, and you have a great council representative in Councilman Gallagher. So good luck to you guys.
Thank you. And I'll agree with that. He is a great council representative. And so that everybody knows, every once in a while, I ask him, I says, please come back. And look what he says. Look what he does. That's all I get.
If there are no further comments, Mr. Council President.
And again, I just want to congratulate you all on the good work that you're doing, and I'm happy to be a part and support. And again, I will add my name as a sponsor.
Thank you.
Add my name as well, Simon.
Baker.
You can add my name if I'm allowed right now.
Tuma. Mr. Gallagher. And my name, please. All right. We have a motion.
I'll make a motion to move this resolution to the full council.
Second? Who's second? Gallagher? Thank you. Any opposed? Any in favor?
Aye.
This is supported by the ayes. And we will move this to the full council. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Madam Clerk, next.
Resolution 2022-0157, awarding a total sum not to exceed $1 million to the City of North Royalton for the purpose of the Memorial Park Improvement Project, District 5.
I haven't looked. Is it still morning?
Yes, it's still
It is,
morning.
okay. Well, good morning,
It's
everybody.
11:35 or 36.
Okay.
Welcome.
I am Larry Anaskevich, the mayor of the city of North Royalton.
Welcome.
And before I turn it over to my economic developer to give the presentation again, I just want to thank everybody on this committee for having us here this morning to to listen to our projects. We think, again, the city of North Royalton, I think, I don't know, I think a lot of people look at us and think we're still this small little farming community. But that is no longer true. We're one of the larger cities in Cuyahoga County, actually. Again, I think it's a well-kept secret in some regards. But one of the things that decided to do it when I became mayor was we went and not only had the master plan through Cuyahoga County, but decided to do a master plan for our park, which I thought was something that was long overdue. We've done that. We've approached it. We've already started to implement some of that, and that's one of the reasons why we're here today, working with Mr. Gallagher, who's been very helpful, especially when he heard about the project, and I think he's been out there actually looking at some of the project and everything. That's why we're here today, and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Jordan, and then if any questions, please feel free afterward.
Morning. My name is Tom Jordan. I am the Community Development Director for the City of North Royalton. I thank you for your time this morning. And I realize I'm the only barrier between recess and lunch, so I'll try to, out of respect to your time, make this rather quick. We could bring up the... as the mayor indicated, we did conduct a community-wide master plan for the park, actually, to take a look at what amenities that the community wanted to seek. We hired an outside professional to guide us through that process and involved many members of the community and the interested stakeholders. We share Memorial Park, unusually so, with the school district. Many of their activities are also located on the park. They actually have a lease to a portion of the park, and they are immediately adjacent to us. The Memorial Park is, our real central park. It is used by heavily by members of our community and also the surrounding communities. The first phase that the master plan had indicated was that our pavilions are all leased out all summer long. We do not have a weekend that none of them are used. We have 2 of them at the park. So they were originally donated to the city by various volunteer agencies, and we redid them. They lacked the proper power. They were not ADA. They weren't well designed. So we went ahead with our first phase of this project is to redo. That picture is only really about a week old of the upper pavilion at Memorial Park. People don't realize we have this rather scenic pond that we use for events. They're actually our first event, met with great success this last weekend, was Parkpalooza. That bridge actually that is there also has electric going across it and feeds that central island where performers are able to stand and perform to the surrounding grassed area and have an amphitheater-like event. Again, that's picture's only a couple weeks old. The splash pad. The splash pad, some of you asked the prior applicant about outdoor pools and splash pad. They're gaining very much in popularity, and when we did do our study and engaged our residents, they wanted some type of a splash pad or an outdoor pool. The splash pad is actually easier to maintain and more affordable to build, and it's actually a really popular feature. It also is under construction, and we hope to have it open by the end of July. This is the overall view of the park on the right and the actual splash pad and shade structure feature. When you build a splash pad, you need a shade structure. People bring their personal items to the shade structure. Their children or themselves use the splash pad and then return to the shade structure and leave the park. So an adjacent structure, which is noted on the bottom drawing, will also be constructed. Overall, the master plan recommended we have a surface parking lot that needs to be upgraded that will be a better stormwater management. We also recommends a very popular thing is now pickleball courts and renovating our tennis courts, and also a new community garden. All of these features, with the exception of the pickleball, are currently offered at the park. It's just that they have aged out and need to be replaced. The study provided us a outline of what features people wanted to have occurred at the park, and we implementing these in a. We do not want to close the entire park. We want to do it in a phased approach, and the splash pad, the pond, and the pavilion are our first efforts. With hopefully some funding from the county, we can move on to our all-purpose trail. We found during the pandemic that people want an all-purpose trail for people of all ages to get around the park. We suffer some of the connectivity issues that were brought up in an earlier presentation, but if we implemented the trail at the park, it would also connect the trail, the actual park, our city hall is there, the school system. With further grants that we've already received, we've connected a number of these institutions, but the all-purpose trail would connect essentially the central business district to the Memorial Park and have an opportunity for people of all ages to use the all-purpose trail. That's the trail as it's outlined throughout the park. That's on State Road. That large white building that is in the upper right there is actually the City Hall. The parking lot is a multi-purpose, uses for civic purposes of all kind. The end of that trail actually is up by the school, the newly renovated high school and middle school. And that's all I have for you today. Again, the City of North Royalton appreciates your kind consideration of its application. That first phase, overall, the master plan calls for about $4 million worth of investment. Your $1 million will move that first phase along on some of those specific features that I've already outlined and implementing the remaining features. The state of Ohio has offered us some grants. They have deemed the project worthy, as well as our city leaders have continued to invest city funds in the project. Again, I appreciate your time. The mayor and I are happy to answer any questions you might have.
I'm sorry, questions from my colleagues? Ms. Baker?
Thank you. Just to reiterate, of the projects that your city could bring forward, this was the project that you as mayor and your council leaders and finance directors and all that are involved, this is the project that you think will enhance the quality of life in your community.
Yes, and that's why, we went ahead and got the master plan, which I think shows our commitment to the project. And as you've seen, we've already started that commitment already. But council was on board with it as they approved the expenditure, not only for the master plan, but for us to move forward as we've done with some of the projects even before any funding even started. So we've had a strong commitment, not only from the community, as Tom has said, but from everybody on council as well.
Great. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. I have a question. Madam Chair.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. Thanks for bringing this project forward. South Euclid has a splash pad, park pad for several years and extremely popular in the weather with little children. So good luck with that. Do you not have an outdoor pool in your city?
We do not.
Use Parma? Is that what I heard?
Right now, we have a strong affiliation with the YMCA that we have in the city.
Okay. Okay. I'm only asking because it's trending to, in that direction for most cities now, is not to maintain at least more than one pool.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I support the project.
Mr. Tuma?
Thank you for letting me speak today on the committee.
We're just going to treat you like you're a member of council.
Wonderful, wonderful. To the mayor and director, thank you for being out here. I've had the opportunity to use that park and attend the graduation parties out there. It's a very, very nice park, and hopefully this will add to the quality of life, as Councilwoman Baker said, quality to the life of the residents in North Royalton and adjacent communities, and I wish you well with the project moving forward. Thank you.
Mr. Gallagher?
Tom, Mayor, thanks for being here. To my colleagues that don't experience North Royalton, North Royalton's probably physically one of the prettiest cities around that no one knows about.
Right.
But that also leads to challenges with the hills and the dales, and And it's extremely difficult to deal with that, with the flooding issues you've had, struggles. Everybody has them, but in a way, we don't hear about that anymore, and that's because of the previous administration, your administration, moving forward with that infrastructure. The importance of these projects to the community cannot be overlooked. The youth, the young families that are moving in, that are really becoming the new leaders of our communities, are going to be using these facilities and are looking forward to them. Many people don't live in a development with a pool, or if you do have a pool, it's just too crowded with other children or older children. So these are targeted. The splash pads are targeted for a particular group, age group. And the other amenities that you have in your plan fit, I think, perfectly. And hopefully my colleagues see the importance of this. I think they do, for the residents of North Royalton. And I fully support this and would ask the president to move it when he's ready.
Mr. President?
All right. And again, I support the project. Again, I thank you for coming forward, and we know you're doing what's in the best interest of your city. So again, I look forward to support. You have, please again add my name as a sponsor to this resolution, and I will make a motion that we move this resolution to the full council for full support.
There's a second by Mr. Gallagher. All in favor?
I would like to add my name.
Oh,
You could add my name as well. Thank you.
Mine also.
thank you. So if you would add all our names, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think you can move, did I actually say all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Madam Clerk, you have the support of all the members of council here today to move this one forward to the full body of county council. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming and speaking to us today, and good luck with your work in your community.
Thank you for having us.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, just to confirm, for resolution number 2022-0156 and 0157, those are going to the full council under second reading only?
No, I thought they were going to have all the readings.
Yes, second reading only.
I thought the president preferred all the readings. I'd prefer to just move them, but if that's the preference of the president, then that's fine.
Well, we wanted to do the standard process for all of these.
Okay, thank you.
Not a problem.
If there's nothing else before council?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I just have a couple comments. I just want to thank my colleagues for bringing these projects forward. I think the strength of our county rests on the strength of our cities, and without strong cities and residents that stay, that our county definitely would be at a detriment without that strength of our cities. So I thank you. It's interesting to see each culture and unique needs of cities. It's really important to understand that not one city is the same, and what might be good for one city is not necessarily good for another. And I think it's really important to recognize that the dollars from ARPA come from taxpayers in each of these communities. Each resident pays taxes toward these dollars, and they're flowing right back. So these residents can have some of the benefit derived from what they pay in taxes. I think that's really important to understand, is that the residents pay for this and it's going back to their communities. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Sunny. Those were great comments. Do any of my other colleagues, or should we end on that positive note of what we're giving back? Thank you so much. Without any other miscellaneous business, we are adjourned.